Tom, happy Friday.
Great to be here, mate. Looking forward to this conversation.
Same here, as always. So our paths have crossed quite a few times now. So we know each other's story at a level which I think we can both appreciate. And obviously, there's quite a bit to you as well. So a lot of people do know you now. I think you're coming up to celebrity status now.
Not quite sure there.
But there's still plenty of people that need to hear your story, what you're about, where you're going. I can't wait to be part of that platform to let more people know about what your goal is, if you like. But yeah, if you wouldn't mind saying who you are and just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, great. So I guess I do a few things, not who am I, but what I do. I teach meditation, I run retreats. I'm an author of 6 books. I'm a speaker and keynote corporate trainer, and also produced a film called The Portal. And I mentor conscious leaders like yoga meditation teachers how to grow their businesses. So it's quite a mixed bag, and really what it comes down to is that I love creating transformation in people. I love helping people go from where they are to where they want to be, and sometimes help them get a deeper understanding about where they can get to. Quite often we have limiting beliefs around, what's possible for us. So helping them break through those limiting beliefs. So I guess, who am I? I'm Tom Cronin. I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a friend, I'm a brother, I'm quite a few things, but I like to predominantly create transformation in people's lives. I like to help people break through and liberate themselves from the shackles of the past and shackles of the constraints of the mind. I guess that's a summary that I could probably give to you as best.
I love it. And I think the thing that when everyone's at a conference and so there's 100 people there all listening to the same person, but they've got 100 different takeaways. When you watch a movie for the second or third time, you notice different things you didn't notice before. So it contextualizes itself at different timelines. But when I've heard what you're about a few times, but I take different things every time. Okay. And the thing that I just picked out there, which really stood out for me, and at some point in this conversation, I'd like to explore more of, is the limiting beliefs. Okay. Because in my personal experience, and there's videos on here from my son who can read books with a blindfold on, and the book could be in another room. Yeah, it sounds like a magic trick. It sounds like a con. Okay, but he does it. He's 10 now in the videos. I think he's about 8. And the irony is you need to see it to believe it, But that's when I realised we've got these superhuman capabilities. Okay, that go way beyond convention. Okay, and I know firsthand, and I think that talks very much to your limiting beliefs.
Yeah, we do a workshop on my retreats, and one of them is called limiting beliefs, and it's about breaking through limiting beliefs. And the first step in the process is everyone has to identify what their core and key current limiting belief is that's holding them back in life in some way. And one girl was sitting there, and she's a very successful woman. She's a bit of a celebrity, and she's got a massive following, and life's pretty good for her. And she's like, I'm really struggling with this. I don't think I have a limiting belief. And I said to her, the last time you traveled on a plane, why did you use a plane and not teleport? And she's like, what are you talking about? I said, well, there's a limiting belief there that you need a plane to get from one location to another location. Now, some people that I've come across or become aware of, they don't have that limiting belief, and they supposedly have the ability to teleport from one place to another place, knowing that they are quantum mechanics, they are physics, they are, ethereal, they are energy at a subtle level of being lepto quarks, and that they play with that using the power of the mind. And so, yeah, I think we all have limiting beliefs in some respects. It's just that we generally have thoughts that are developed and conditioned by the surrounds of society, and we think about shopping and scrolling and doing crosswords and Sudoku and whose football team's going to win, and we don't really challenge the nature of the thought to stretch beyond what it's currently comfortable at. And so that there in itself creates limiting beliefs. But, I've seen people like your son be able to read things without eyesight, and that's the predominantly in the gurukuls in India, where they're training children now to use consciousness to be able to see. And we're seeing people now, just in the last few years, as we start accessing more of the subtle and ethereal field, more people having psychic capabilities, mediumship capabilities, clairvoyancy capabilities, healing capabilities, Reiki capabilities. It's quite phenomenal. I was actually just talking to a couple this morning that have had phenomenal success healing people from stage 4 cancer remotely by using Zoom calls. So these sorts of things, people would be burned at the stake, 50 years ago, whereas now it's starting to become more commonplace. It's quite exciting where we're at now.
It is, and we've got it. The way our brain develops is the executive function, the frontal lobe, I think it is. It tells us if we go through a red light when we're driving, that's bad. And we rationalize it, it makes sense, and then we've made sense of our world. And once we've got that rules our day, every day, constantly, so that anything that challenges that, we automatically dismiss. Okay, we have a closed mindset, so anything outside normal, but anything that's the extremity. So what you just explained there, and it's a really good valid point to change that lady, was the plane to teleportation. Was a really good example of something that's right out there. Okay, but of course we can't do that. That's where she's at, but it proves we have a limited belief. But the reason why my son, I remember when the lady came around and she taught me and then my son. Okay, and she said to me, she goes, there's two sets of people that are more susceptible to this. We've got children because they haven't developed the executive function yet, and we've got adults that meditate because they're used to letting go and just letting their consciousness do what it does, and everything that you do. And at the time I was doing the meditation with yourself, so I could do it. I could see colours, and I was getting it right. So the video in it was I got there. So I believe it, but I still I'm a bit more calcified. Okay. Whereas as soon as I put it in my son's hands, he could do it immediately. So it's a state of mind which determines whether we can turn on these abilities or not.
Yeah, I'm constantly trying to challenge. I've got a lot of limiting beliefs. So when the mere fact led that I had to drive here today to the farm, and I didn't teleport, so I've got my own limiting beliefs, and I've got tons of them. And everything has a boundary line, and the mind has a boundary line as to how far that mind can stretch, as far as new thoughts, new neurological patterns. And what we get conditioned with is these things called vasanas. A vasana is a tendency of the mind to think in a particular pattern or a habitual way. And most of our thoughts on a daily basis, 85% of them are repetitive thoughts of the day before and the day before and the day before. So we get this deeply ingrained groove of habitual thinking on a daily basis. And we never really challenge that too much. We might do a university degree, we might do some sort of course of some sort, we might work with a mentor, but we never really stretch the nature of our thoughts into really uncharted territory and consistently hold our mind in that particular space. And yet the ether is bursting with potential and possibility. And all it's waiting for is us to actually put the impression into that field from our mind, into the field of mind, and over time seeing what manifests. And some people were better at doing this over years than others, and we revere them highly because they could manifest loaves and fishes and things like that. But a lot of us are still trying to play catch up and seeing if we can work out how to do some of this stuff ourselves.
Absolutely, and there'll be people listening to this that things we're just talking mumbo jumbo, and that's okay. That constitutes the norm. But I like the idea that we can flesh this out and discuss this and actually talk about these things as a reality, and because then there's more of a chance of a possibility for those that otherwise wouldn't have had that conversation and thought these things were possible.
Yeah, and look, it doesn't have to be, you're going to manifest a gold-plated Rolls Royce, or you're going to, suddenly go and jump over the moon or something. It can be simply that you no longer continue on with self-sabotaging behavior.
Yes.
It can be as simple as that. I remember my mum, she was a smoker for nearly 30 years of her life, and then one day she said, I'm not going to smoke again. And from that day on, she'd be smoking a packet a day. And then from that day on, she never smoked another cigarette. But that was such incredible mentor. And she said there was many times where she wanted to go back to it. But she said once she made that definitive decision and she had that thought, she challenged her old habitual way of living and behaving and thinking. And so this is in a more practical sense for those people listening that were a little bit, we come out the gates bolting a little bit on this conversation, talk about self-reporting. So let's bring it back to a little bit more grounded conversation. You know, what are you doing on a daily basis? How are you using your time? What's normal for you and what's unfamiliar for you? And how can you make the unfamiliar familiar through repetition and to continually challenge old status quos, old ways of thinking, and see if you can rewrite the code a little bit. Just little bits. There's an incredible story which I'll share. I won't take too long with it, but it's something that really impacted me. And I can't remember the full details because I've got a note to research more of the details. But the English cycle team had never won any tournaments, any competitions. They never won the Tour de France, never won gold medals. And it wasn't until the 90s or the early 2000s, I can't remember, I think it was the 90s, but they brought in a new coach. And he had this premise that they would make something like a 1 degree change in the way they were doing things on a daily basis, from the seat covers to the lycra that they were wearing, to the socks that they were wearing, to the amount of repetitions in the pedals, or something every day was this gradual incremental change. And then what happened after a period of time was that they started to win gold medals, they started to win Tour de France's, and it was a phenomenal impact that he had on the cycle team. But by making these minute changes, and again, that's challenging the status quo, changing the limiting beliefs, and bringing in new ways of doing things.
I love that. So there's incremental gains, and it's talked about a lot in different areas. It's in all that athleticism. It's in Formula One, where it's talking split seconds on the change, what have you. And I remember reading Atomic Habits, and they talk about that 1 degree difference on the flight ends up in a different destination. It all is factual, all makes sense. But it's kind of Kaizen as well, isn't it? Is that the right terminology?
The what?
Kaizen, the Japanese.
Oh, right. Yes.
Yeah, the methodology. But okay, all right. So going back to limiting beliefs, okay, I'm going to thread the needle a little bit again. Okay, so obviously you own that you have some limiting beliefs, and you also own that you're self-aware of those enough to try to expand and change those so you don't self-sabotage. Okay, rewind 20 years. How does your limiting beliefs compare to Tom Cronin 20 years ago to today?
One of the big ones that I really challenged a while ago was that I didn't feel useful, purposeful, or significant unless I was busy. And this was literally a deep condition, either genetically or energetically passed on to me through my parents. My mother's mantra that I would hear all the time would be, aye, there's just not enough time in the day. And we would have a list every weekend that we had a list of jobs that we had to do as children. And I really embraced that as I grew up. You know, I used to start my weekend with a list of jobs that I had to do. And I didn't feel like I would actually accomplish anything on my weekend unless I ticked off all those things that I had to do. And I started living, when I left finance and went out as an entrepreneur, I started doing a lot of that on my own as well. And I found that my day was just constantly being filled because that's just what I do. And I didn't know anything different other than just being busy the whole time and filling up my calendar, filling up my days. And then one day I started to just really stop and check in with myself and do a deep, what I call critical thinking session on how do I want to live my life? What do I want my life to look like? Who do I want to be? And one of the things I challenged, among many things that I continually challenge about myself, is I just wanted to not be so busy. And I wanted to manifest days that had big spaciousness in them. And I wanted to be able to have windows of time where if I did nothing and just roamed and wandered and sat down and did nothing, I would still feel really fulfilled. And in the end, I created a new calendar. I literally started one day and said, okay, from this day onwards, be like my mum with a cigarette. From this day onwards, no one can book into my calendar. And I kind of live by my calendar between 1 and 3. That's funny. That's the way you just called me out for this podcast. Between 1 and 3 is I have naps, I watch telly, I get massage, I go to the gym, I do yoga, I'll have a long lunch. I just fluff about, and I don't want to work for 2 hours within the center of my day. And then I don't want to work Friday afternoons. This is Friday afternoon, but this is not work. This is more pleasure. But, I like to have Friday afternoons off leading into the weekend as a bit of a luxury because I work a lot of weekends. And so I really got clear on creating big fat gaps. And the weird thing was my success actually didn't deteriorate. My success increased.
Mm-hmm.
It was really quite a fascinating phenomenon. And I got better at condensing my work time into shorter windows of time by having more rest time and being in a better vibrational state. So I thought activity was the leader of success when I realized it was actually the state that I'm in is the leader of success.
Well, listen, all of that completely resonated with myself because I'm a list maker. Every day, every night, I make my list the night before I go through it. It's semi-realistic, so it is achievable, but the chances are there'll be some things that roll over. And the weekend is household chore time, and my son helps me, he ticks it all off as well. So all of that resonates. But the other thing as well is obviously around my own business, with all the stresses and the challenges that come with that as well. And we can never switch off, especially with technology as well. We can keep working if not careful. I didn't realize until you said it that I'm also taking a bit of a step and just like, you know what, no one's catching me then. Simple as that. I need to recalibrate. I need to do whatever it is I want to do off grid, if you like. And I didn't realize I was doing that, but and it doesn't have too much of a detrimental effect, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think what we've got to start embracing as a society, as a civilization, is doing and getting is one thing, but being is another thing. And we need to value being over getting and doing. And then interestingly, being, which is a state that we're in, will determine more of the getting and the better doing. It's a really interesting reversal of what society is valuing. At the moment, we're valuing doing and getting. If I can get things and if I can do things, then I'll be more fulfilled. But where I come from with my clients is let's get you fulfilled. And then from fulfillment, start doing and you'll be getting. And it's an effortless way of being. It's an effortless way of living. Of course, there is requiring some degree of action, some degree of proactiveness, but it's from what state are you moving into the action? That's absolutely critical as to determining the outcome of the action.
So it's essentially a paradox in the equation of transactions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And so let's get a little bit to your story there. So we've already gone back 20 years. Let's go back just a little bit longer without giving any ages away here. I'm aware of your story as where your journey started from. I reckon it'd be very good for people to hear this because the Tom you are today wasn't the Tom you were. You're chalk and cheese, and I didn't know you then. I just know your story.
Yeah, it's funny. A lot of people say to me, "God, I wish I knew you then. It would be so much fun. We could go out for a bender one night." So, in short, I was, entered onto a trading room floor at the age of 19 in 1987, the same year as Jordan Belfort entered onto a trading room floor at the age of 22. Wolf of Wall Street and my story were quite parallel in many respects, as far as the year that he started and the world that he entered into, which was very much the world that I entered into, was crazy Wild West in the 1980s and 1990s in the finance markets. It was out of control. There was no HR, no people and culture. There was no regulation. It was just anything goes. It was kind of quite absurd as to what a daily life would be like in my world as a broker. And that was really exciting. As a young 19-year-old, I was supposed to go to university and do a degree in journalism and write articles in Time magazine about capitalistic greed. But next thing, I'm on a trading room floor and making tons of money and rolling out corporate Amex cards over wine bars. So, it was that classic, the gravitational pull of the glamour and the glitz and the money and the hedonism threw me off my center, and I completely lost myself in that world. Now, the good thing with the universe is it's really good at reminding us and realigning us, usually through some pain and discomfort. So what started to happen is I got really deep into that world, lots of drugs and drinking and partying, and a lot of hard work as well, lots of money, was that I really lost myself in that hedonism and that pleasure seeking. And that showed up as major symptoms and signals and signs from the universe. in the way of anxiety, depression, panic attacks, insomnia, and eventually a full-blown nervous breakdown. And that was a culmination of many years of extreme abuse on my mind, my nervous system, and my core values. And so from there, what happened was, in this very dark night of the soul, again, the universe is very good at guiding us. I came across meditation by watching a documentary about a property developer who was very successful at the time, but he was talking about how for part of his success, he attributed it to meditation. And that was a light bulb moment for me. Now, I'd never come across meditation. I went to an all-boys Catholic school, grew up on a farm, and next thing I'm on a trading room floor of 150 guys yelling and screaming. So meditation was completely alien to me. But when I saw him meditating in a suit, in a chair, it really was a light bulb moment. And that's when I started to look into meditation and learn a technique that blew me away. It completely changed my life.
Okay, so let's fast forward to today. Obviously, I heard you're a 6 times author. You've got a movie out, among other things, and we talked about purpose a little bit as well. And I know where you've been going, what you're doing, but this is Tom today, so it might be different from the last time we spoke. Okay, where's your purpose? Where are you going to next?
You know, I used to be really attached to my purpose, and I used to really be attached to it like a very alpha male, goal-oriented person, that I needed to achieve this particular result. And if I didn't, then I'd be missing the point, or I'd be in a state of lack of fulfillment. And it's interesting these days, maybe it's my age, maybe it's my spiritual practice, but I'm less attached to the goal, which was initially I established the Stillness Project, and the vision there was, and mission was, to inspire 1 billion people to meditate daily. One person even reached out to me, says, why don't you have a counter on your website so you can actually start measuring this? And I kind of almost did do that, and thinking, that'd be really cool, because then we could, really cheer each other on and try and reach that goal. But these days, I'm more about doing what's in flow, doing what I feel passionate about, doing what makes me feel joy. I spent 10 years working on a project that was part of facilitating that particular goal. But weirdly, I didn't really enjoy that time, and I didn't enjoy the process of creating that project. And it wasn't my sweet spot. So what I do these days is I like speaking on stages and inspiring people to realize their potential. I like teaching meditation. I like running retreats. I like coaching. I like teaching teachers how to run retreats. I like coaching yoga teachers, breath workers, yoga teachers, meditation teachers, how to run their businesses. These are things that bring me joy. And interestingly, now that I've let go of the goal, I'm actually fulfilling that goal a lot more quickly than what I would have done when I was, trying to beat myself up for not fulfilling that goal. And what I teach my clients in the Zen Academy is, whatever you're doing, making sure that you're doing it with joy, and it's a sweet spot for you. It's a space that because if you're not going to enjoy it, it's not going to get you the results you want anyway. It's definitive when you're doing what you love doing, and you're doing it because it brings you joy, then it's going to have bigger impact anyway, and you're going to get better results as a result of the state that you're in when you're doing what you're doing. So obviously I want to support people, help them relieve themselves from suffering and overcome all the traumas and the pains that they've accumulated either in this lifetime or previous lifetimes, genetically and ancestrally, but also doing it in a space that I really love doing it.
So it's quite interesting, because as it's evolved, you were purpose-led, you try and do a lot of good and what have you, but in the manner, the vehicle and the methodology you're trying to do that, and it means you sort of jump off the wagon somewhat, and it takes a little bit of time. Hold on a minute, if I'm using that mentality, then I'm going against what I'm about as well. So I think being able to get to a flow state is a whole topic in itself, and something that people can aspire to, and it's healthy to do that, I think your days go by with a lot more joy, a lot more simplicity, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if those outcomes are enhanced as well.
I think for everyone listening in, it's really important to understand no one's missed out on being given attributes and qualities and gifts. And different people have got different gifts. And an example is Deepak Chopra. His gift is to write. He's just a prolific writer. He can punch out books so easily, so effortlessly, so quickly. Whereas my teacher that I studied with, Tom Knowles, he's not a writer. He was given a commission to write a book, and he never got around to writing it. He's just a great orator. His gift is speaking, and you put him in front of an audience, he will speak for hours, and his gift is to just deliver incredible knowledge through speaking. Other people, it might be through Steven Spielberg and through making movies. We all have different qualities, different gifts, and you're going to come alive when you're expressing them. Those might be, looking after horses or saving street dogs from dying or things like that. We've all got incredible gifts, and they're all different, and we're all unique, and we're all contributing in some unique way to the world. And no one's missed out on that. It's just a matter of finding and tapping into what that gift is and removing the barriers to the expression of that gift. We've got people with incredible gifts, but then feeling unworthy or self-sabotaging that gift and not helping themselves by realizing that and getting that out. So yeah, it's just about finding what those attributes are. And it could be 1, 2, or 3 gifts that we've been given, and you want to find ways to use those in the best way possible.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And that's something that I advocate in every single thing that I do with my businesses and my day-to-day life. All about individuality. It's all about finding what it is we're very good at, and those things that we're very good at tends to put us into a flow state because we enjoy what we're good at. Okay, brilliant. Well, I love that. That draws us to an end on this occasion. Anybody listening to this, they want to know more. How do they contact you, Tom?
I said it's gone so quickly. I was just enjoying that.
Sorry.
It's all good. So they can come and find me a couple of different places. Instagram is a good place. I like hearing from people. I respond to all my messages myself. So Instagram is Tom Cronin. My website is tomcronin.com. LinkedIn is another good place to find me as well. I'm quite engaged over on LinkedIn. So it's just Tom Cronin 1, I think it is, with the number 1. But yeah, you'll be able to find me there no matter what.
Fantastic. I really appreciate the time. I do agree it has gone quickly, but there's your flow state for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Timeless.
Thanks, Tom.
Pleasure, mate.
Thank you for watching this episode. I hope that you did enjoy it, had lots of takeaways from it. As before, please subscribe below so you can keep on top of any new releases we have. And also, if you would like to have your story told, just reach out with me and I'd love to give you that platform. My best email address is tom@purplepatchconsulting.com. Thank you.